Hey y'all, it's Bear, and today I'm here to give you my February TBR, as well as my January wrap-up. I'm going to give you a brief summary of the 10 books that I read in January. A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcy Little Badger. I thought this was wonderful. I thought it was happy and joyful and queer, and talked a lot about family. I gave it 4 stars. The Blackheart Boys Choir, which while it was horrifying to read about teenagers committing these horrible events and dealing with this kind of interesting musical demon, I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst. Don't feel compelled to pick it up if you're missed out on it. The Least of My Scars by Stephen Graham Jones made me throw up in my mouth. Because not only does it psychologically mess with your head and question a lot of things, it's gross. Like, I put on Twitter, there's a scene where he's like eating a woman's nipple. It's, no, 5 stars. Then Brimstone by Sherry Priest. This was like rereading an author I didn't like in the past, and I think it just confirms that I'm not gonna give her a 3rd chance. Because while I thought the setting of this very spiritual southern town was interesting and the characters were all interesting and I liked the idea of coming together to solve a ghost mystery, essentially, I don't think that because your book is set in the 1920s, your characters have to talk like they're in the 1920s. Don't use historically accurate language for historically accurate racism, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Is in my book, that's a little uncomfy. So I give this one 2 stars. Then Sorrowland by River Solomon, which if you're on my Patreon, that vlog is already up. Please go check it out. Make sure you don't miss it. The best book I read this month. Gross and made me cry. The body horror is really good. It was. I haven't been able to fully process my thoughts about this book, but it was wonderful. Like, fucking wonderful. And then the 5 books I read that were not for the TBR game. Meddling Kids by Edgar Quintero. I thought 3rd time was going to be the charm, but I had already DNF'd it 3 times in the past. So 4th time I finally finished it, and kind of fun. It just wasn't compelling enough to really hold me in, and the writing style was something that didn't really work for me. Because it was fun and I enjoyed the characters, I give it 3 stars. Then Tales from a Talking Board, edited by Ross E. Lockhart. Some of them were a good time, some of these stories were out of place, and not all of them had Ouija boards, which is kind of the purpose of a Ouija board horror anthology. Ego Tripping by Nikki Giovanni, who I said in the vlog that I did this book for, is the first poet who made me like a love poem. 5 stars. Amari and the Night Brothers, because while I thought it was wonderful and I really liked the world building and the characters, I did have a couple of instances where I was told things instead of shown things. Like, it would be like Amari and then told her friends that this thing happened instead of actually just writing out the dialogue scene. So I gave it 4 stars. Then Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Surprisingly, a 5 star. I enjoyed the writing because it felt wet. And I think that a wet writing style, a thick writing style, works for something set in, you know, Victorian times about murder. So that's a brief summary of everything I read in January. Now let's get on to the February TBR. We didn't get too far last month, so I'm hoping our rolls are going to be better. However, I've decided to do the rolling and the drawing of the cards a little bit differently this time around. So I'm just going to draw the cards now. Oh, they're all falling out. So I'm going to draw the cards now and not look at them until I flip them. I've literally been practicing my shuffling and I've gotten so good at it, but you wouldn't know by that. 1, 2, I'm gonna go 3, I can't see them, I'm looking away, 4, and 5, okay. Also, if you have any TBR card prompt ideas, please comment them below, because I have a couple more blanks that I want to fill up. 6, okay, we're off to good so far. And the first card is, okay, land back. Read a book by an indigenous author. 2. Okay, 2. I jinxed it. Ooh! Cowboy Like Me. Read a book with a small fan base. I made that card whenever Swift Talk decided they hated Cowboy Like Me. And I loved Cowboy Like Me. And now everyone's up Cowboy Like Me's ass. And I'm like, y'all didn't appreciate a good thing at first. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, Kaboom. Ah, I dropped it. A self-destructing book. This is from my These Books Will Self-Destruct in a Year video. which I actually rewatched the other day. And the reason that I picked up Tales from a Talking Board and Meddling Kids were because they were both in that video, and I want to get all of those books done. 6. Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3. We're not doing too shabby this time, actually. Read a book that fits a readathon prompt for that month. I'm not really planning on participating too heavily in any readathons. I know Blackathon is happening, the Rent Readathon is happening. I just saw one on Twitter called the New Moonathon for like the Lunar New Year. So I have a couple that I'm like interested in participating in, but I don't want to tie myself down too much to a specific one this month. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh wow. And then last card. Peter Parker. Read a book with a superpowered character. Y'all, please understand, we went from here all the way to here. We killed it with the corgi this month. Okay, so I'm gonna disappear, I'm gonna go pick some books, and we're gonna be right back. Hello. Unfortunately, after looking at my TBR for about 30 minutes, I can't find anything that fits the Peter Parker card. So we're just gonna put it back in the deck, and I'm just gonna pick the first one that I draw. Okay, we have The Algorithm. Read a book you've seen online advertisements for. So we'll just do that one instead of the Peter Parker this month, and hopefully by the time I draw the Peter Parker card again, I have at least one superhero book on my TBR. Read a book by a native author. I'm going to be finishing The Witch King, which I started in November of 2021 and did not get to finish it. Excited to finish it, and like I said, I would finish it pretty quickly in 2022, so we're just gonna bust that out this month. I talked about this in several TBR videos, I think, but basically this is a YA portal fantasy situation. Have a trans boy protagonist who is like engaged to the king of the fairies, and our protagonist is a witch. So fairies and witches don't like each other. There's like this big feud going on, kind of like an overthrowing situation in the kingdom. Amir, the prince, comes back to get Wyatt, the betrothed witch, to kind of help fix the unrest in the kingdom. But Wyatt is also trying to get thrown out of the kingdom and causing all kinds of trouble. So for The Algorithm, I am going to be reading Lakewood by Megan Giddings. This has been pitched as Henrietta Lacks meets The Handmaid's Tale. It follows a woman named Lena who becomes subject to medical experimentation after her grandmother dies in order to help repay a family debt. So I believe it's like she needs money, family bills, funeral costs, something like that, goes to this testing facility, and as you can guess from the comp titles, it's not necessarily just like standard testing. It is a medical horror, which is something that freaks me out so bad. I have a phobia of like hospitals and doctors. I will avoid going to the doctor at literally any cost. So medical horror or medical thriller are things that have really been working for me within the past couple of months, so I'm excited to read this one and then add it to the list of books that probably are going to make me throw up. Then for the Kaboom card, read a self-destructing book, and keep in mind this one does go back in the deck until all 12 of the self-destructing books have been read. We have The Day the Sun Died by Jan Lianke. This one takes place in an isolated village in the mountains that's caught in a waking nightmare, is what the synopsis says. Basically, our protagonist is this young boy, and it's like a pretty standard summer day, but during like nightfall, everyone starts sleepwalking. Like everyone in the village is sleepwalking, and our protagonist is the only one who's awake. I watched a review of this the other day. I saw that there was also something with like a crematorium and a funeral home, so this one is gonna freak me out. I don't think it's necessarily supposed to be horror. Can't find a specific genre that this book is ever really categorized in, aside from literary fiction. But this sounds terrifying. This is like my literal worst nightmare. Then, Cowboy Like Me, read a book with a small fan base. I'm gonna be reading Dirty Heads by Aaron Dries. This one I actually got recommended on TikTok by the author. He popped up on my For You page. And this we're essentially witnessing is like a cosmic entity's horror origin story. Says he dreamed of becoming a man and ended up becoming a monster instead. Follows this family just like living their day-to-day life, but there's a shadow in the basement with too many teeth that's coming for them. It sounds so good. It sounds like a good spooky time. It's a novella, so it's very short. Yeah, I'm excited. It's also an indie book, so. It says it's part coming of age, part cosmic horror, and the countdown, like the chapters, are counting down. So they start at 20 and go all the way down to 1, I'm assuming. And then finally for the last prompt, Versatile. I mentioned a couple of readathons that I was planning on like halfway participating in, and then I remember that I have to include the group book for the Last Great American Readathon, which is Stay Gold by Tobley McSmith. This is The Outsiders retelling, I think, but it's a YA contemporary novel about a trans boy who is like trying to fly under the radar at his new school, but he catches the attention of the popular cheerleader, and it's just YA romance. Gonna be a good fluffy time. Well, actually, I've heard it's not that fluffy. I've heard it gets pretty dark. That's really all that the back says. It doesn't really go much into detail about the actual plot, but you know, I'm assuming it's the trials and tribulations of trans people in high school. Love me a good YA romance every now and then. Love a good contemporary. But this one fits a bunch of the prompts for the Lover round of the Last Great American Readathon, which is my favorite album. And finally, my Patreon book club pick, which I didn't draw a prompt card for this month, so that kind of blows. But it's Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Kah. And this one follows a group of people who go to Old Abandoned Manor in Japan. And they're there for like an eloping, a wedding, something of that sort. There's the ghost of a bride who's trapped in the walls, who wants company. So I've heard that this is like a good spooky one. It's very short. Once again, we're really loving the novellas this year. I keep hearing this one's pretty meta, so the characters will be like, oh, we shouldn't do that because if we were in a horror movie, then that would get us killed, and then they get killed. So I'm curious to see how this one goes. Also, N.K. Jemisin blurbed it and said brutally delicious. So that's a good sign, I think. So yeah, these are the 6 books I'm planning on reading in the month of February. Obviously I'll try and read some more than just these 6. That's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, you can let me know by liking, subscribing, sharing, hitting the bell, all of that good stuff, as well as answering the comment question of the day. Comment question of the day. Let me know the best book you read in January and the book you're most excited to read in February. If you don't have time, you don't have spoons, you don't have an answer, you don't want to answer, let me know you made it all the way until the end of the video by leaving me an emoji, preferably a yellow heart or a smiley face emoticon. All my social medias, as well as everything I've mentioned today, will be linked downstairs, so make sure you go check that out, as well as places to support me further if you so choose. Like my Patreon, my PayPal, my Amazon wishlist, etc. Yeah, I hope you have a wonderful, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you next time for another video. Thank you for watching. Okay, cool. Bye! If you're not a booktuber, like if you don't make videos, do you understand how awkward it is to pose for thumbnails? Like, I mean, you have to like try and hold books up. These covers are very similar colors. So they'll look nice in the cropped picture, and in the background won't be all of the brightly colored books. Thumbnails are hard. I feel like people don't talk about what it takes to make like a pretty thumbnail.